I'm Shae Russell from mining.com.au and I'm coming to you from the RIU Sydney Resources Round-Up. Sitting next to me is Julian Woodcock, the Managing Director for Viking Mines. And we have got probably the best show and tell that you are going to see here at the RIU. Now, let's look at the rocks. Now, we spent a lot of time talking about drill results, but today we're going to see what they actually look like when they come out of the ground. Mate, I know in one of these trays, there's visible gold. Yeah. Show me the sparkly stuff.
All right, well, the results that we just put out last week, last Friday, is come from this hole.
That's really cool. So first of all, let's go through these trays.
Yeah, so these trays with the holes that we drilled, hole 180, written the numbers on the top here, the grades. So jumping straight to the best bit, we got a meter at 45.5 grams a ton in here. So when we got that result, I went eagerly to here, emptied all the little bits of rocks out that we've got. And this little piece of quartz that I've got here, if you check out our announcement, there's some close-up pictures of this. So you've got in here, there's little flecks, and if you shine it in the light, you'll see some glinting.
Yep, visible gold.
There's a bit of gold in there. And I also have another piece of core here. This is from our first hit mine, which is only a few kilometers to the west of where we've drilled in this previously undrilled area. And this really shows in rock what the kind of thing we're looking for. So we've got a vein here, that's the white stuff. Big red circle, that's not natural, that wasn't on the rock originally. I've put that on there. Again, if you flick this in the light, absolutely peppered with gold. This comes from a sample 1 meter wide at 47 grams. So same kind of tenor as grade. And that's what we would expect to be finding.
we're going to stay here playing with the rocks for just a moment because I find it super interesting. So firstly, a lot of people don't know the difference between the core samples and these chips that you've got here, because what you want to get is to these core samples, but you start out with the chips, don't you?
Yeah, well look, it fundamentally comes down to cost like most things. So if you live in Sydney, you might want to live in the CBD, but you might end up having to live in the eastern suburbs, I don't know. Core drilling, every meter of this will cost us probably $150, $200 a meter with all the costs of the drilling and the sampling and the rest of it. RC drilling, this program costs us about $100 a meter. So we get a lot more coverage over a lot more ground. The difference is we don't get to see, as a geologist, the veins in the rock and get the information from that.
Yep.
We end up with an impossible jigsaw puzzle that we'll never put together because we're even missing most of the material. I mean, a meter produces a giant bag of rock. We just sieve off a bit of this and get some. And this means we can look at these, go, yep, there's quartz vein in here, for example, in this hole, another quartz vein, 3 grams, another vein in here, 0.7, another one at 1.5. So this tells us that we've probably got 3 or 4 of these veins, but we have to interpret a bit more. But what it is doing is giving us numbers that then allows us to decide where we're going to next put the next holes.
So it's an important first step so you can get to these, so you make sure these holes count.
Yeah. And look, these have their place early on as well, but for a junior which needs to get the best bang for its buck for its capital, we generally look to do some of this earlier on.
Now, I want to take it to the next step because obviously we've got these super cool rock chip samples, but we've talked before about in past interviews the sheer size of the ground you're working. And I love this. This is a pretty much show and tell. You have very cleverly overly laid your maps on Sydney to give everybody an idea of the scale. Mate, talk me through what's this?
Yeah, so it's always difficult to understand, and I get a good sense of scale, but even when I go out in the field, it's like, wow, it takes us a bit of time to get from one drill line to the next. And we say things like, oh, they're 1.7 Ks apart and this, that, and the other, but you really need to be able to feel it for yourself. So to illustrate that, we've just overlain our tenure. The area that we're exploring north to south that's seen virtually no bedrock drilling before we got involved. If you know Sydney, it runs from the north side of the Harbour Bridge all the way down to south of Botany Bay. So that's what the first image shows on this side. If we look at the image on the other side, I've zoomed in to where we've got these results. I've put the drill holes where we're sat today, having this conference at the Hyatt Hotel in Darling Harbour. The next drilling north of these results, the next drilling north of the meter at 45 or 2 meters at 23.6 is all the way at the Harbour Bridge. And you've got to get between here and there with no drilling in between. And that's the opportunity that any investors and shareholders have. They come on board and we've got space. So it's not like a company that's drilling within existing holes and you've really got to find where there's stuff left in between all the holes with no results. We've got open slather and first 2 drill lines, we've got results and that's success. So
This is super exciting. As you said before, these are this is a vast distance apart. So I look forward to what happens next, essentially, and your next conference. All right. So I guess to take us home today, the question is, what comes next? When do you get out? When do you start these second holes?
Glad you asked
The
that.
next batch.
So I happened to bump in at the conference, the business development manager for our drill contractor.
Oh, lovely.
And saw him earlier, Peter from Top Drill, and got out his schedule, and we've tentatively booked in the rig for the end of June.
Oh, awesome. Good to see. All right. Well, I will look forward to updates on that. And thanks for bringing the rocks along to play with. It's always great to give people a glimpse of what actually happens from the geology desk. Listen, Julian, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for being here
As always,
today.
Shae, thanks very much.